left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let us go now to Bethlehem and see this thing that has taken place, which the Lord has made known to us." So they went with haste and found Mary and Joseph and the child lying in the manger. When they saw this, they made known all that had been told to them about this child. And all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds told them. But Mary treasured these words and pondered them in her heart. The shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all they had heard and seen, as it had been told to them. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
This birth story has a little bit of everything. Conquerors and oppressive governments, travel to a faraway place, remembrances of a beloved king, the struggle to find a place to stay, and animals and shepherds and angels, and fear and joy and amazement, and heavenly hosts and the spreading of a story. There are miracles too. An angel of the Lord appears before everyday, ordinary people going about their business, doing their work. The glory of the Lord shines all around them, and a multitude of heavenly hosts are heard praising God right in the middle of a shepherd's field. It's hard not to get carried away by the drama of everything that happens in Luke's story. And yet nestled within this larger-than-life story is the simple statement. While they were there, the time came for her to deliver her child, and she gave birth to her firstborn son. That's it. No story about morning sickness, or how Joseph rubbed Mary's tired, aching feet, or stories about how her water broke, or where she was when she went into labor, or how long she pushed before her son made his way into the world. Jesus isn't even named in this passage. All we get is she gave birth to her firstborn son. It almost gets lost between the conquerors acting like conquerors and moving people around like checkers on a board, and the angel, also translated as the messenger, doing what messengers do and delivering messages, and the shepherds shepherding their flock, herding the animals, and the heavenly hosts acting heavenly, I guess. Mary gives birth. And if we're not paying attention, then we might not notice it at all. I mean, of course we know it's there. Jesus was born. That is why we celebrate Christmas Day. This is a part of what we've been waiting for all of Advent. Christ to be born and to come again. And yet the author totally understates this event, choosing instead to focus on the setting in history and what happened just prior to the birth and what happens just after the birth. Which has me thinking, perhaps the author of Luke wants to challenge us to enter into this story like everyone else he writes about, completely unaware, wrapped up in the details of what living in the real world is like. Paying taxes and powerful people moving us about at their whim. All of us somehow caught up in this game of what living in this world requires of us. Or perhaps he wants us to be overwhelmed by what follows the birth of Jesus, to be amazed by all of the hoopla, the bright lights shining in dark places, dark, unexpected places, and the reactions of the shepherds and the multitude of heavenly hosts that beckon us to sing of God's glory. Or perhaps he wants to challenge us to recognize the one understated detail, to search for it even, the birth, a baby. No mention of the heartache and the sacrifice that is to come. A moment that gives us very little detail, that still contains the pregnant tension, even though new life has already been born, already arrived. It is an aliveness that has yet to be named. The author preserves the moment of the birth of new life breaking into the history of heaven and earth as something so inconspicuous, so unassuming, so ordinary that we just might miss it. Something small and vulnerable, something that requires our care and our nurture and our love, something that must grow if it is to reach full maturity, something that is fully alive and right before us, and yet we do not completely know who he is or who we are in this story just yet. Perhaps the author wants us, just for now, before we get carried away with life's details and the pageantry of it all, to sit with the mystery, to remember the simple birth, a moment alive with possibility for all of us, and to treasure it and ponder it in our hearts. Amen.